with Hannah Becker. Today's conversation promises to be an insightful one with a remarkable guest. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular listener, we're so glad you're here. Our goal is to bring you closer to the innovative leaders and thinkers shaping our future. Today, we're thrilled to welcome General Chad Raduege. Chad retired from the U.S. Air Force in 2023 as a general officer with 29 years of cyber operations, communications, and information technology experience. He is a 9-time commander, including the White House Communications Agency. Prior to retirement, Chad served as Director of Command, Control, Communications, Computers, and Cyber, as well as the Chief Information Officer for the U.S. European Command. Chad currently serves as President and CEO of the Raduege Group, as a partner with Lara Nova, and as Chairman and CEO of the Air Force Cyberspace and Air Traffic Control Association. He also serves on multiple boards of advisors, including America's Future Series, and on the board of directors for AFCEA International. He earned his bachelor's degree in business management from the Ohio State University. Welcome to Tipping Spears, Chad.
Well, Hannah, it's great to be here. I put myself in the return listener category, and I want to just applaud you for what you do and bring in these important messages to our public. Podcasts have become kind of the communication mechanism, and I'm just so privileged to be here. I also appreciate, given your Mississippi roots, a shout out to the Ohio State University. That was very kind. I look forward to spending some time with you today, Hannah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do so. So, Chad, can you start us off by telling us where your story begins?
Yeah, Hannah, I'm a proud grandson of an enlisted Army soldier that served in World War II in the Pacific Theater. I'm also the proud son of an Air Force veteran of 35 years serving our nation. So really what that means, Hannah, is that I'm a military brat. That means that I claim 3 hometowns. I spent the majority of my life growing up in Colorado Springs. I graduated high school in the Northern Virginia area, and I went to school, as you noted already, in Columbus, Ohio. So I call those my 3 hometowns. But now in retired life, I call Tulsa, Oklahoma home, and I'm proud to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting to be able to kind of put down roots and also take a little bit of every place you've been. My husband's a military brat who went into service himself, and he like you has multiple claims to home, and it's interesting to see how the places kind of shape you as an individual.
Very, very true. And Hannah, shout out to you for being one of our very supportive military spouses. You contribute in significant ways, and I know your husband appreciates it.
Well, thank you. So I know you've got a family history of military service, but can you tell us what really sparked your interest in serving in the military yourself?
Yeah, Hannah, it's a fun story, and this one goes back to when I was a youth growing up. My mom used to help host some of my dad's coworkers, and 35-year Air Force veteran. He had military friends that would come over to the home. I was always inspired in an inclusive family where they would include the kids around the dinner table to hear the conversations that would take place. I would hear of the passion that these individuals had about going to work each day. It was never complaining about, oh my gosh, here comes Monday, and I'm going to drag my feet getting to work. They were always inspired to go and work. They were always inspired to work on really big and important projects, and so I just found great enthusiasm in that. I also found that these were really high caliber people. Every person that came over was patriotic. They were polite. They were smart. They were articulate. And I grasped hold of this. And I can remember telling my mom and dad, as I pursue what I want to do, and I'm declaring that I want it to be the military, it's because I want friends like you have had, and like I have seen when I've been growing up. And so that's really what sparked my interest in serving the military. Moving forward from that, though, I think there was just this recognition that I wanted to contribute to society in a meaningful way. I wanted to be part of something that was bigger than myself. And I put national security and serving our nation in that category. It was not about chasing money. It was not about chasing titles or anything like that. It was really about giving back to our nation and keeping our nation's citizens safe. And so military service became a natural draw for me.
So how did you get started kind of in the realm of, cyber and IT?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. My the tough part was for me. I knew that I wanted to come in the military. I knew that I wanted to serve in the United States Air Force. My dad had served 35 years in the Air Force. I felt like that's what I wanted to do. It was during college that I had some of the pre-physical applications, and you go through, and they identified that I was colorblind, and so that ruled out being a pilot for me. And so I had perhaps one day of pouting and being frustrated that I could not fly. But then I went in and talked to my ROTC faculty at Ohio State and said, what other options do I have? What activities are out there? Where can I be very close to the operations? Where can I support the pilots and those that are making the business happen each day? And communications became that pathway. Communications is involved in all aspects of our military service. The pilots need communications to take off, to land, to navigate around the world. We need communications in everything that we do, whether we're talking HR and people, whether we're talking money, whether we're talking logistics. Communications is the backbone of all of that. And so joining when I did, before there was even this thing called cyber, communications was that linchpin that helped pull me together.
Yeah, it's interesting kind of as you were describing it, I was thinking, just kind of the critical nature of communications and how often those who are, dependent on it, they don't think about it until the comms go down, right? It's like, don't realize the essentialness. We just take it for granted that folks are making it happen and keeping it secure. So yeah, I love the description of it being kind of the backbone of operations.
Yeah, Hannah, I think you highlighted, the tough part of serving in the communications career field as well, though. No one comes up and thanks you when everything is working just fine.
Right?
It's only when it goes down that you become front and center, and it's your problem to fix. And so there's a lot of stress associated with that. A lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, Chad, was there a particular event or person that really served, as a catalyst for your career?
Lots of people served as catalysts. I kind of talked about the people that would come and eat dinner around our family dining room table. I certainly put all of those in the category of catalysts that helped inspire me into service. But those are really too many to single out. There are two events that took place in my early career or even pre-military that really shaped my way of thinking. The first was when I was at Ohio State. I was an undergrad. I was studying. This thing called CNN was just getting going, and they made a name for themselves because they had nearly 24/7 coverage of the Gulf War.
Yeah.
And America's response to Iraq invading Kuwait, and the response that our nation did in that regard. That really gave me a very important lesson and appreciation of what our military could do, the role that our United States Armed Forces could play around the world in helping others. So that was really a catalyst for what was going on in my life. The second one was as a second lieutenant. I was stationed at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City 30 years ago, and the Oklahoma City bombing took place. I was one of the initial people there at Tinker that responded and was put down there as what started as rescue and then became recovery. But there was really an appreciation at that point. As a young second lieutenant, I was given a team and asked to assemble that team and organize them. And these were tough conditions. These were stressful times for not only the men and women of Oklahoma City, but really our world. The world was watching what was going on. Domestic terror hit home. And so there was really a catalyst of leadership and being ready at any point. You know, that day started like any other. You got up and you had your normal thing. You went into the office and it was just normal routine. And then in the blink of an eye, we were called upon to respond. And so really that leadership principle of always being ready was instilled very early in my career. 30 years ago in April of 1995. We just commemorated that 30-year anniversary just recently. I went, from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I drove down to Oklahoma City, spent some time walking the hallowed grounds. President Clinton came in and was a speaker for that event. It brought back a lot of memories, and I recognized how important and impactful that was in my life.
So every journey, has its hurdles, has its obstacles. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the biggest kind of challenges you faced in your career were and kind of how you overcame them?
Yeah, I love that question because it allows you to reflect a little bit about, the long career journey and what you've gone through. I described that I came in as a communications officer in the United States Air Force, but that evolved over time to cyber operations. The first hurdle that I would describe is one that I call the table, and when I talk about the table, there was really one of the hurdles that we had to fight through, that many of us had to fight through in the cyber operations career field, was how do you get a seat at the table? Mm-hmm. And so how do you communicate the relevancy and the importance of cyber to those that don't understand cyber? Yeah. How do you get up to the table where decisions are being made and you're able to communicate the value that your community, your teams can contribute to that mission? And so that was the first hurdle, is getting to the table. But then interestingly, once you got to the table, it became the fight to stay relevant at the table. Cyber operations became kind of a buzzword, and all of a sudden everybody at the table wanted to have a role in cyber operations. And so there was fighting that would take place of who wanted to own cyber operations. And so it was getting to the table and then fighting through how to remain proactive and a leader of an important aspect of our military operations. So that was the first one. It was really, how did I deal with it? It was really just the daily grind, the conversations, the professionalism to work through that tough problem set. The second one that I would describe to you is one that I call silos. And this is really organizational constructs. It's the way that teams are organized. I found in my military career that there were silos of excellence that were out there. There were people that wanted to control just their portion, and they were not interested in having the collaboration and working through the tough problem sets. They viewed it sometimes as a power play. Hey, if I give up this, I'm going to lose power in those table discussions. And so working through that was immensely difficult, but one that, continues today, quite honestly. I think we're getting better. I think we're recognizing that, cyber can play an important role in every mission that is out there, and that collaborating, being a good teammate, doing what's right for the bigger cause outweighs all of those leadership hurdles of just owning what you own. So those are the two that kind of come to mind when you ask that question.
I really appreciate, your emphasis on kind of that cross-departmental, even cross-sector collaboration, because in today's world where it's, the challenges are increasingly complex, the threats are increasingly complex, that I feel like is something that should just really be foot stomped, is, helping us move or encouraging us or even communicating the urgency to move outside of our own silo, work together, and come up with responsible, sustainable solutions to this new world.
Yeah, very true.
So what new development around cyber are you most excited about? I know there's tons of new things always coming out in the world of tech, but what's kind of on your radar for new developments?
Yeah, Hannah, this is going to be an answer that you and your listeners have heard before, but it's one that I think is the most pressing one right now. I just think that artificial intelligence being here is just so impactful for us to work through right now. And so, by way of developments, I really package two terms that are gaining popularity in their usage in our community. One is what we would call AI for cyber. And so, how do you employ the AI tools that are proliferating right now, that are coming online? How do you bring those in line with cyber operations? How do you produce automation? How do you change workflows? How do you empower the cyber operator with data at their fingertips through AI, through the ability to knock down all of these hurdles and get greater situational awareness that much faster? So that's the first one. The second one is a similar play on terms, but it's just the reverse, and it's the cyber for AI. Why I say this is, I think that AI is the internet development that we saw in the later part of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and really the proliferation of the internet that we know today. So when we talk about cyber for AI, this is, I think, the challenge and the opportunity that we have. When the internet was starting, this concept of cyber was not there. And so cyber became an add-on. It became a bolt-on. It became an after all of the connections were made, now let's think about trying to secure that. I think we have an opportunity right now, and that gap is and that opportunity is really closing very quickly. But it's to shape the AI that is out there right now with cybersecurity built in. And so this is our opportunity, that as we're employing those tools in support of all of society right now in this digital environment and digital place that we live and work, we have an opportunity right now to build in the cyber applications associated with that and protect AI systems from all of the things that go on in normal cyberspace of today. So really, it's that AI for cyber and then cyber for AI are the two important developments that I think about each day.
Yeah, those are great terms. I hadn't really thought about it in that context, cyber for AI. That's such a great description. So
I'm gonna credit my good friend Greg Toohill. He is up at Carnegie Mellon and continues to not only serve in uniform, but continues to serve our nation with the CERT, the U.S. CERT up there, and he's one of those key leaders that helped coin those two phrases, and I give credit to my good friend Greg.
So what are your top concerns about national security? What worries you? What keeps you up at night in terms of kind of the future of our nation and in relation to security?
Hannah, I love that question, and I could be flippant with what keeps me up at night. I think about General Mattis, and nothing keeps me up at night. We keep them up at night. I love that quote. But the reality is, as I hear your question, really my mind goes to three things. My first concern, my first thing that keeps me up at night is thinking about our military of today. How do you, in a very busy and complicated world with with activities going on in Russia and Ukraine, and Israel and the Gaza Strip, with strikes on Iran, with activities being discussed in China, Taiwan, the Indo-PACOM theater, all of those things, I think about the military that is serving today. And how do you balance responding and being directly engaged on a daily basis in combat operations, and at the same time evolve the military service with technology, with new ideas, with new weapon systems, getting off the old and into the new. How do you build that readiness while you're engaged around the world? So that's a problem that our nation has faced really my entire military career. I talked about watching the Gulf War when I was in college, and then coming in and having that in the crosshairs, but then 9/11 taking place, and then combat operations for the rest of my military career. So this is not one that we're not unaccustomed to, but it's one that I know weighs on the hearts and minds of our military members today, is just balancing current operations and preparing for the future. The second one that I would highlight is one of relationships. I think my reality is that we, as the United States, do not fight alone. Hannah, you noted that my last active duty assignment was Headquarters European Command in Stuttgart, Germany. I was there for Russia's invasion into Ukraine, and I worked with all of the allies and partners that were part of the NATO environment and European theater. I saw the value and the contributions that those nations play. We don't fight alone in the United States. And so the narrative that sometimes I think gets played out of our relationships with those countries and the role that the United States plays as really the world leader, I think is one that weighs on my mind. I have friends that serve in other nations' armed forces, and these are dedicated professionals that are trying their best to represent their nation and keep their nation secure as well. For us to walk away from those allies and partners, for us to belittle in any way, I don't think is helpful. And so I think about allies and partners and the relationships that we need to have around the world. The final thing that I would talk about, Hannah, of kind of what keeps me up at night is really what I call the digital divide. There is so much going on in the proliferation of technology, of AI, and other things that are coming online, that I think that our nation and our world are quite frankly getting further and further apart by way of technology. Access to technology, access to tools, access to cell phones and the internet. We've done a good job of trying to get that out to large portions of the world, but we're falling short on that. And so I think that digital divide is going to get even more and more pronounced as we move forward. And I think that will create great challenges for our armed forces and for our nation of working through those. And so that digital divide is one that kind of keeps me up at night as well.
So how do you think technology has reshaped the way we approach security and defense? I know you've seen multiple reiterations of technological, revolutions and emergence of new tech. But how have you seen it change, just kind of change the landscape?
I appreciate that question. I go back to a book that I read many, many years ago by Thomas Friedman, The World is Flat. And I think this is really an indicator of where technology is coming in. Technology has made our world more interconnected and, quite frankly, smaller than we've ever been. The idea that something was taking place on the other side of the planet, now because of technology, it is right next door to us. It's right on our television set, and so it has made us the world smaller and more connected. It's also made things move faster. The old days of of waiting for the headline to come out from the AP or the newspaper to be published, that no longer takes place. Things are so active right now, and so fast that if something happens in the world, think about an airline crashing someplace, or wildfires, or police standoffs in Idaho. Those are playing out in real time on the television or on our handheld devices, because communications and technology just enables that to happen. And so faster, smaller, more connected, all of those things are taking place. I also think that technology has played a pretty significant role, and I would say since COVID, of redefining what we call the office. We are now able to work from really anywhere. We always had that ability, but COVID drove that home even harder and faster. We were now at home, like you and I are right now, having a conversation in a virtual office. We have the ability across all sectors to work from really wherever we want and wherever we can get the connection. And so I think that has reshaped the world. From a cybersecurity professional's perspective, all of those things create even more threat and opportunity for us. I think about that the changing office space, the attack surface. When I was in uniform and we sent the federal government home to work from home, now the attack surface for those devices proliferated. I mean, it was out there. You're now trying to figure out how to protect the VPN connection to someone's home, not just a couple of offices or office buildings on key locations. And so from a cyber perspective, that really changed a lot.
So cyber is constantly evolving. How do you stay ahead of, what's relevant, emerging threats? What strategies do you think are most effective in kind of building cyber resilience?
For the threats of today, I really think that there are three things that I would highlight. The first is just envisioning the threat, and so I think it's important that we understand the art of the possible. What could happen? Worst case scenario is we lose all communications capabilities, and so how do we exercise that? How do we actually build that into test environments? And we're working without communications, without the elaborate PowerPoint presentation that's up on the screen, with an operations center that is back to landlines, making phone calls, trying to update the whiteboard on what is going on. And so I think it's really about envisioning that threat, but then exercising that threat. Second thing is, I think that we have to be honest with ourselves. I go back to less than a year ago, well, maybe a year ago now. CrowdStrike, gained a lot of attention. I was frankly a little disappointed in the way that the world responded. The world responded to CrowdStrike by casting blame, and immediately pointing the finger at them, saying, "Look at what they did to us." And I think the finger really should have been pointed right back at those organizations and those entities to say, how did we get here? What did we miss? And before we start casting stones, is our glass house clean? Do we have the right procedures? Do we have the right recall rosters to get the right people called back in to respond to this? And so I think that we have to be honest with ourselves, and it's not about a blame game, but it's about holding ourselves accountable to a standard. The third one that I would highlight is one that I call tough conversations. And so my example for this is the global undersea cable infrastructure. There's a group right now that is trying to revitalize this important conversation about what resiliency do we have in place for our global undersea cable infrastructure. Hannah, the reality is that 95% of the world's internet traffic, if not more, rides over undersea cables. And so what are some of the threats that we're seeing out there? Well, sometimes there's just natural events that those cables degrade and fall offline. But there's also adversaries that are out there dropping anchors and breaking those cables. And so who owns that global undersea cable infrastructure? Is it the United States? Well, maybe, but not necessarily. This is in the global commons. This is about connecting the world through these undersea cables. And so these important and strategic conversations are ones that I think that we have to have. We have to come to the table and formulate some responses, some protocols, some tools, some techniques, some procedures for how we're going to deal with this. Who responds when it's cut at the shore? Who responds when it's cut in the middle of the ocean? And how do we do that? How do we coordinate that? How do we pull traffic over to keep those connections around the world in place? So those are some of the things that I kind of think through.
So what ethical or operational challenges do you foresee for cyber leaders in the next, 5 to 10 years?
I won't belabor this. Your podcast has addressed this quite a bit. I think the ethical challenge is AI, and how AI is teamed with the human in the loop, and how does AI enable the human to make decisions, and where is the human making decisions and not the machine? So that's the ethical thing that I think we're going to continue to work through as a nation, as a world, moving forward. Operationally, I think the challenge that we're going to face is one of society. There's a great book that I read recently. It's called 1 Second After. And the scenario plays out as an EMP burst above the United States that takes out, all of our communications. And all of a sudden, we're back in the 1890s, not the 1990s or the 2000s, but we're back in the late 1800s, and we're trying to survive. And what's alarming in that book, because I think it's reality, is how fast society turns on itself. When you're fighting for medications, when you're fighting for food, when you're fighting for water, when you're fighting for security, technology is completely out the window, and those discussions don't take place. So the challenge that I think we're going to have to think through is how do we respond as a society, and how do we organize that? And so, again, another threat, but also an opportunity to think through that ahead of time.
I'm going to have to look that book up, Chad. It sounds fascinating. 1 Second After.
Given where you live in the world, you'll appreciate it because it takes place in your backyard.
It'll really hit home then.
It will.
So what career advice do you have for the next generation of professionals who are interested in this career path?
Well, first of all, for cyber professionals that are out there listening and trying to figure out if this is for you, I would say if you want to be the part of everything that's going on, if you want to be at the center of the business, of the operations, cyber is really the place for you. And so if there's any hesitation, don't hesitate, just do it. We need amazing people that will come in and serve our nation and contribute to society in important ways. But I would offer a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of eyes wide open as you prepare to come in. First of all, know that you're going to have to develop some thick skin. I kind of jokingly, Hannah, told you that when comms are up, everything is good. When it's down, you're the blame, and so having a thick skin to work through that with the pressure on is important. Second thing, eyes wide open, is this is not one of those career paths where you go through your education, you get smart, and then you forget everything. Technology is evolving so quickly, so fast, that you have to become a daily student. You have to read about what's going on. You have to see the trends that are out there. You have to understand the terminology that's going on. You have to understand the ideas that are being implemented and how that impacts. And so being a lifelong learner will become kind of a credo for you.
So looking forward, what developments are you most hopeful about in terms of the future of cyber?
I don't want to stir the pot, but what I will say is that there are 5 operational domains: air, land, sea, space, and cyber. In our United States military, 4 of those domains have their own service. And so I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be continual debate about, does the cyber domain warrant its own service, and what are the pros and cons associated with that? I'm not here to debate that. I'm not here to even take a stance at this point. It's just an observation and a conversation that I know is going to take place. I think the funner conversation to have is really one about the new tech that is out there. Hannah, I know you have a spirit for the entrepreneurs that are out there. I have the privilege in kind of my post-military career to pursue passion projects, to align myself with fantastic ideas, fantastic people, and fantastic tech. That means that I get a chance to talk to founders in San Francisco and Austin and Boston and Montana and Oklahoma, and I get to hear their ideas as they're drawing on the back of a napkin and then building that dream of tech into reality. And they're going out and getting funding and trying to find sponsors and building prototypes and winning contracts. I get an opportunity to work with those young entrepreneurs, and there is so much excitement with technology and all of the applications that tech can do to help our nation and our world solve big problems. This is really an exciting place to be, and I love being part of it.
So Chad, any final words of advice for the audience as they, navigate our connected world?
Yeah, the connected world. Hannah, I'm gonna end with this. I have the privilege of serving with a group called the Savvy Cyber Kids. It's a fantastic founder out of Atlanta, Georgia, who has assembled a team thinking about the workforce of the future, and that is our kids. And so, really, my final message is a call to action for all of us. We are not going to be around forever. We're going to get older, and we're going to become the disconnected technology users. But how do we inspire the next generation to carry on? And that's really building the digital workforce of the future. And it can't start early enough. I think about the way that I was educated. I learned to say please and thank you in kindergarten. I learned to look both ways before crossing the road. These are old terms and old ideas of the way that we grew up in the society that I grew up in. In the digital environment, you have those same challenges. We have to evolve the conversation. How do you say please and thank you online? How do you look both ways? How do you become critical thinkers about the information that is being fed to you by AI bots? How do you stay safe online? All of these are important conversations that I think that we need to get into our schools, and yes, even down at the kindergarten level, because the kids that are picking up the phones of today, the kids that are being born, are going to know an AI powered world. And my gosh, just the last year or so, the proliferation of fake ideas and fake reports and AI generated content, it's astonishing. And so really this is a call to action that we all have a role to build the future that we want by focusing on our kids and keeping them safe in the cyber realm, but becoming the great digital leaders of the future by giving them the tools that they need now.
I really appreciate the call to action, Chad. I think it's so timely and so relevant. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your insights, your experiences, your contributions to our nation have impacted so many, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
My pleasure, Hannah.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tipping Spears with Hannah Becker. We hope this conversation has sparked new ideas and challenged the way you think about our future. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and we'll catch you next time with another exciting guest.